Hi everyone, I'm Rajan. I'm the founder of Artwareness, which is a community or a group where people come together and figure out who they are, understand themselves, but also understand each other. We talk about different issues, emotional issues, um, and try to understand ourselves with that. Okay, so I start off with a question for you all. What is one thing you want to do differently emotionally this Thanksgiving or Christmas? Because we're heading that way, right? Now, I have a couple of examples, like responding slower and softer towards other people, or you want to start the day off with setting a boundary that you keep for that day. For example, you're walking out of the room when they're talking about a certain topic that triggers you, or not absorbing other people's moods. That's a really big one for people who are sensitive because we tend to absorb other people's moods and that will affect us and respond to it mostly in a negative way. Even just becoming quiet or yeah, there's my cat. Um, Becoming quiet or shut down is also a negative form of showing yourself, of behaving. Um, Letting go of old roles in the family. For instance, you're always learned to be submissive, and at a certain point, you start growing and you go to a holiday with your family you haven't seen for a year or something. Don't hold on and don't turn back to the submissive you, but be who you are. Don't go into a role they expect from you. Um, my own thing I want to do differently this year is paying more attention to my own energy and my boundaries, and step out of situations that endanger it. Uh, I am an introvert person who needs connection, so it's difficult to find a balance sometimes. Now, if I'm in a room and I've been talking to a big group of people for, let's say, 2, 3 hours, my energy becomes low. I feel like I'm shutting down. I don't have much energy left for anything, and I become very easily triggered and very easily emotional. So I need to pay attention that I don't cross that line and step out of the room to charge my energy before it gets that bad. So that's what I'm going to pay attention to this holiday season. Um, Now, why does understanding yourself and others matter during the holidays? It's a very important thing because if you can recognize why people trigger you, you can make sure you set up boundaries or you step outside of a room before you are the one who's making the big issues. It's not that you're making the big issues, it's just that if you're aware of it, you can easily step out of it so there won't be any miscommunication or fighting or um, heavy disagreements going on, which you would like to avoid during the holidays, of course. Um, it is really easy to say or do something that might be very unimportant to you or insignificant to you, but have a really big impact on someone else. That goes vice versa. So if someone, for example, says, Well, I might be able to help you out, and that gives you a lot of uncertainty because they say might, but you really rather hear a yes or a no. Then you might be triggered and you will respond in a more frustrating way, even though that's not your intent. And their intent might not be to make you confused or trigger you, because for them, it's really normal. But for you, you get triggered. Um, so you have to become aware of what triggers you or recognize it. Um, it's also good to know what you need to stay calm. Um, for example, take some space for a couple minutes or do some deep breathing in and breathing out. Set some clear boundaries, and boundaries are not things you want other people to do. Boundaries are more what you are going to do when they cross a line. That means that if they say something that triggers you, you step out of the room. You're not going to tell them to step out of the room because you are triggered. That is a boundary. Um, be aware of your expectations. Know what you are expecting and figure out if your expectations are realistic or not. Um, if you're someone who didn't tell anyone you like to drink a red wine during Thanksgiving dinner and you're going over to some people and there's no red wine, well, then your expectations um, might not be realistic if you haven't told them you would like to have red wine, or you could have brought your own. So you need to be aware of realistic expectations. Now, if you know this ties in with the triggers, and what makes you feel good is knowing and understanding your emotional patterns. For example, you know that you shut down when you're overwhelmed, or you start people pleasing when you're anxious because you're afraid they're going to reject you or abandon you. Knowing them will help you navigate these situations and do something about it. So when you can name what's happening inside of you, it loses its power to run the show, meaning that if you name your feeling, if you name your emotion, then it has less power over you, and other people can have more understanding of you. Now, understanding others, what this does is it creates more compassion for other people, because everyone carries their own history. They have their own wounds and stress and reasons for behaving how they do. And just judging them on their behavior could be completely opposite to how they are actually feeling. Most people respond very angry when they are upset or sad or confused, and they don't know how to deal with them, or they don't know what to do with those feelings. So they get angry at the person who upset them, or even people around them that they didn't upset. But for example, my husband comes home, he had a very stressful drive. And when he gets home and I ask him a question, he snaps at me. That does not mean that he's angry with me, but he's simply overwhelmed. That doesn't mean that he's an angry person. It just means that he is still processing of what happened earlier. Now, if we get to understand those reasons, or if we can try to put ourselves in other people's shoes, we create understanding and compassion for them. And we learn to not take it as personal, because most of the time when people are angry or upset or they respond very emotional, It has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with themselves, their own hurts, their own wounds. There is one way I can maybe explain how that works is the crossroad story. Well, the crossroad story is if there's an accident at the middle of a crossroads, and at all 4 points there's someone standing and watching it. Everyone sees it from a different angle. Now, if the north side sees the back of the car hitting another car, he can say, well, he was putting on the brake, it was not his fault. Well, if a person on the south side is standing there and sees that person coming from the north being on his phone, then that person says, well, it is his fault because he was on his phone. Both people are neither right nor wrong because they saw what they saw, and what they saw is true. But that also means they don't see the full picture. Um, so yeah, if there is a disagreement or a fight, try to see it from different angles instead of just watching at your angle, because you might be missing details other people did see that keeps you from getting the full story. So no one is right and no one is wrong. That is how perspective works, right? So if we apply this to our daily conflicts, misunderstandings, or holiday stress, we will have a lot more compassion um, for ourselves, but also for others. So I have another deep reflection question for you all. Take your time, write it out on a piece of paper or on your phone, because this really helps you to figure out who you are, what triggers you. Just think about it. The questions are: what situations or people usually trigger you during the holidays? So what triggers you? What are some of the things that you have difficulty with? That could be words, that could be certain behaviors, that could be a tone of voice, that could be that um, they never pay attention to your food intolerances. That could be that they bring a certain person presence, but not other people. Um, so yeah, just figure out what triggers you during the holidays. Is it the stress around cooking? Is it um, feeling upset or grief because some loved one passed away around the holidays a couple of years ago? Those are all triggers. Um, what emotion under that trigger needs care or comfort? If you get triggered because you're stressed out of cooking for so many people, what emotion is under it? Is that because you feel like you can't do it? Is it because you don't have enough time? Is it because you are trying to please other people by trying to be perfect and include everyone that puts too much on your plate? So in that case, you could ask someone to help you out, right? Or maybe do a dish less just to make you feel a little more at ease. How could you show yourself compassion to yourself? How can you show compassion to yourself this Thanksgiving? Meaning, what can you do to make yourself feel a little better? If we grab the cooking part again, or the cooking story, try telling yourself it doesn't need to be perfect. If you already have 5 dishes, why would you need to put a seventh or a sixth or a seventh with it? Or if you forgot about an ingredient, a spice or something, so it doesn't taste perfect, that's not what Thanksgiving or the holidays are about. Of course, we like to have good food, but it doesn't need to be perfect. So how can you show that compassion to yourself? By telling yourself that it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Or I need some energy too, so I do a dish less. That doesn't make me less to other people, but it helps me to emotionally regulate better while the people are coming over, and I don't have to stress out or get snappy with them, right? Is there someone you could view with a little more understanding this year? We all have those people that we don't really like to see around the holidays because they talk about politics, or they have that certain behavior that you don't like, or a certain attitude. But try to think of reasons why they could behave that way. That doesn't mean that you know it exactly, you know who they are, but try to see it as maybe they behave that way, or maybe they have that attitude because they are stressed out themselves, or maybe they have something going on, or maybe they are jealous or something. Once you look at other people's behavior and attitude in that way, you will create less tension for the both of you, so things will not get as out of hand as it normally would. So that was it for the lesson itself. Try to think of those questions and try to write some of them down because they could help with our creative activity. Our creative activity is the perspective circles. Now, draw 3 circles. One circle is for your own perspective. One circle is for their possible perspective because you're not them, so you don't know what moves them. You don't know why they behave that way, but you can take some guesses. And not like, well, they're just bad people, so that's just what it is. That's their intent. Because that is simply looking at it from your point of view. Try to step in their shoes, like seeing the situation from their side, and go from that. How would you feel, or what would you do if you were in their situation? Or when do you respond very angrily or frustrated? That will be also helpful to figure out what their perspective could be. And then circle 3 is neutral ground, or what actually matters. Now choose a holiday related situation or person that usually stresses you out. I have an example of mine, uh, and my example is about my food intolerances. I'm already stressing out for a couple of weeks about eating at my parents-in-law. Um, my mom-in-law tends to forget about my food intolerances, or she just simply forgets to make a separate dish for me. Now there are different ways that we can give a solution on, but I use this as the perspective circle exercise. So in the first perspective, my perspective, I wrote down I feel stress or fear already in advance, but also when I'm there. Um, I am gonna think, or I will be thinking, that I'm a big bother. I already think that I'm a big bother because they have to pay attention to my intolerances. I'm a bother to ask them to make different side dishes. I'm a bother to, um, well, I'm just a bother, right? Um, the other thing I often think is they don't want to make anything for me because in the past there have been experiences that they did not make anything for me, and I felt horrible. I was there and I couldn't eat anything at all because they just forgot about my food. So what I think is that they just don't want to make something for me. They know it, but they don't want it. That's my perspective. I feel like I'm being left out and that they don't like me because I have food intolerances. So I think my mom-in-law doesn't like me because she has to go um, make more trouble to make food for me, get ingredients, recipes, or something. When I go over there or when I think about this, even before I know every specific thing, I can feel very angry. But the anger comes from a place of fear, fear of being left out, fear of um, being the bother. But I will respond with anger um, because I don't know how to deal with it. Now, there are ways I can deal with it, but I will discuss that later. What could her perspective be? That's an important one. I try to put myself into her shoes, my mom-in-law, of what the reasons could be that there's no food for me or that she didn't do anything for me, right? And I think she could feel very stressed and inadequate because she already is spending a day in the kitchen. It is stressful to add another dish or pay attention to intolerances because um, you have to mix up all your recipes and change your recipes that you already have for many years, and I'm just an addition to the family, right? So she could feel very stressed and inadequate if she doesn't do it right or if it doesn't taste right anymore. She never had to deal with any food intolerances, so it's easy to forget. Not that she does that on purpose, but it's easy to forget something that you have not ever had to pay attention to. Um, she could be afraid of doing things wrong, like I said, that her dishes don't taste the same anymore, or that she will try to do something for me and still she messed it up with adding an ingredient that I cannot deal with. That can happen. So she can feel very inadequate and a lot of fear because of it. um, Her response would then be like, I'm never good enough. She will be angry with me, not because I'm doing something wrong, but because she's so insecure and she's so afraid to fail that angers her. And it will be lashed out on me when I try to talk with her. And that's where things will clash. That's where fights will happen because we both will see it from our own perspective. But by doing this exercise, I can see it from her perspective. So I don't weigh as much on it as I usually do. Now, being neutral, the third circle, neutral, that is about what is actually important, what can I control, and what can I let go of. um, what compassion can I have here? So what I wrote down is I can simply bring something for my own, like have her make her meals like she usually does. I can have a bite here or there, so I do have a little bit of issues, but it's not as bad, so I bring my own side dish. Or what I could do is go to her up front and ask her how she's doing with the food, if she needs any help, if she can make something for me separately, or if that adds too much to her stress. And then it's her responsibility to be open and honest about it, because I know a lot of people, and I think a lot of people who are watching, um, are trying to please others, saying, "Oh no, it's not a big deal. I'll make you another dish. That's fine." And in the meantime, they are completely stressed out of the amount of work they do. I'm completely the same like that. So I'm trying to learn to be open and honest about it. If someone asks me to help out, I will be honest to say, well, I cannot put an extra dish in there because I'm getting overwhelmed because of it. And I will have the understanding, or the other person should have the understanding for that if I mention that. Vice versa too. So if I talk with my mom-in-law and I ask her to make an extra dish that is safe for me, but if she says, well, I really don't have the space to make it because I'm already overwhelmed and I have to do all these dishes, then okay, fine. And I'll make my own dish. I'll make it myself and I'll bring it with me. Um, so what I can let go of, well, sorry. So what I can control is the conversation or bringing something for myself. What I can let go of, though, is all these thoughts that I have that I'm a bother, that she doesn't want to make anything for me, or that I'm left out, or that they don't even like me. That's what I can let go of because that is not the case. If she doesn't make any food for me, that doesn't mean that she doesn't like me. It just can mean so many different other things. And the compassion here is me trying to understand that she already has a lot to do. Um, so I can be compassionate about that and considerate because she's already putting together the whole meal. So, yeah. Um, this activity, by the way, if you're doing this activity works because it lowers your emotional intensity. It stops automatic responses because you've already gone through it and you've already tried to see it from both perspectives. So automatic responses like anger or frustration or sadness will be less likely decreased, or maybe even completely stopped. It also increases compassion for the people you're going to be with, and it gives you a lot of clarity before going into that environment with people and situations that could trigger you. So take your time. You can go through this exercise with multiple different situations and triggers, not just for the holidays, but basically for everything. Have fun with it. This is mine, actually. I did it a little simple, but you can color, you can draw, you make simple symbols, anything. It's fun to do. It's a little deep, of course, but you cannot grow if you don't go deep. So, um, understanding yourselves and others doesn't erase anything. It doesn't completely hold off certain situations and triggers that you might have, but it will be a little easier to deal with them. And it will help you to stay a little more grounded and calm during the holidays. So I think that's it. This is the first time I was giving a lesson online. Um, so bear with me. I'm not very confident in front of a camera yet, but I will try and do this a lot more often, so I will become more confident. And I wish you all a very, very, very happy, healthy, fun Thanksgiving with friends, family. Now, if you don't have anyone, don't hesitate to text me. I will be available for text messages for anyone who needs someone to talk to or who needs to get something off their chest. So don't hesitate to text me in person, okay? And now I wish you a great day, happy holidays, and see you soon. Bye!